Hello, and welcome to today's midday meditation. So happy as always that you are here. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And today, as we get settled, as we always do, right? The practice here, if you are new, is that we get settled into our seat first and we establish a foundation upon which this time together is really intended. We are intending, our intention here is to break the momentum in your day, to stop the cycle, or stop the flow rather. We'll stop the flow first of all that we are intaking through our senses, the activities, emotions, and we are stopping that cycle, stopping the cycle of whatever it is that we are caught up in our day. Because when we stop that cycle, we can come back within, we can internalize, we can reconnect with that which is at our core, at our foundation, our inner strength, our inner vitality, our clarity and discernment. And it's these things that are the essence of our true nature. It's in these practices that we reconnect and reclaim what I believe is at our core, which is calm. And this is the art of stressless living. So welcome. And if this is not your first time here, you will have already likely settled into your seat, really sunk into that which is supporting you, that chair, your furniture, whatever it is, floor, the seat of your car. This is a place where we just allow ourselves to be supported by, that piece of furniture, but also supported on the foundation of our frame, our bodies, our earthiness, our bones, our flesh, our muscles, tissues, all of those aspects of ourselves that are, when put together, this brilliant, beautiful composition that is you, that is me. And as we settle into that support, if you are safe to do so, you can close your eyes. That is how we turn off the sense of sight and that external vantage point in favor of that view to which is that which is within you. And this is the main purpose of our time together. If you come back, and I certainly hope that you do, and for those of you who have been with me for a while, you'll know that we start every midday meditation just like this. Just like this, on repeat. And we practice this together because sometimes we forget to do that on our own. Because breaking that time, or breaking up our time when we are in the midst of other activity, can be something that we put off. You'll get to it later. And maybe then by the end of the day, you haven't gotten to it at all. I know that I've done that so many times, right? You think, oh, just 5 minutes, just half an hour. I'll do that this afternoon. And then suddenly it's evening. The day's over. And you're like, oh, I'll get to that tomorrow. So we practice it together. We do it together so that you don't have to remember all by yourself. And we practice together because community and building this beautiful community is another one of my great purposes in being here. So I'm glad that you were here. And as you settle into your seat, as you find that you're able to relax the body, the breath, even settle the mind into that which is supporting you. I'd like to share a contemplation or two just to give your mind, which is always naturally kind of seeking, especially if you are, like most people who are joining, very busy, very engaged in the world around you, lots on the go. Then without a little anchor point to come back to, the mind can begin to very naturally just drift back into whatever it was you were doing before. Whatever it was still needs to be done later. It's always going to be searching for that next thing until the point, and this does occur with practice, that the mind is able to rest kind of naturally. But that takes time. That takes time. And so the contemplation that I wanted to share with you today is very much based on this point in time that we are in the year, in the season. Because I believe and I know that our true nature, which I just talked about, is not separate from the nature that we see outside the window, or that we go to find in the park or on a hike. It is within us, as in nature, so too are we. And to me, there is no better expression of that or time to contemplate that than the changing of the seasons, because it gives us this point of transition to observe and to learn from and to reconnect with. And the seasons transition so subtly, don't they? It's not, I spoke about last week the spring equinox and, the change of the calendar. We flip the calendar and suddenly it's spring. That's true from a calendar perspective, but nature unfolds not because we flip the calendar. It unfolds much more subtly, much more gently, and from a place of, or foundation of, calm. Calm is the through line. Calm is the through line. And while nature, in its power, can be very expressive, and we see that especially as spring starts to emerge and flourish and transition into summer, but also through the weather. Nature has the power to create. Nature is creation. Nature has the power to end and to destroy. And while we can see these highs and peaks of it, both in the weather and, as the seasons change from one to the next, we are now in spring in the hemisphere that I live in, this part of the world, and things are starting to emerge. The buds are on the trees, and soon they'll be in their full glory of leafy splendor, and the flowers will be popping up everywhere. But there is a time to them. That beautiful beauty of creation will be so evident, so explosive almost. But it doesn't start there, does it? It takes time. It takes time. And if we too are like nature, which we are. We have so much to learn from how that all unfolds. And I think one of the things that I contemplate a lot this time of year is how, because of the movement, the shift in energy from winter to spring, and you can feel it. You want to shed the layers. All of a sudden, you can get outside. It's lighter, longer. We can do more, fill our days with more activity. There's lots to do. It's like we've been waiting, and the door is finally open, and now we can do all the things that we've been waiting for. It's not cold. It's less cold. There's lots to do, and maybe lots we've been waiting to do until now. And so it's almost with impatience that we begin all of the new things, right? We fill the calendar, we fill in the lists, we get engaged, activities start up again. It's as if the light bulb has turned on and now we can do all of the things. And so it can be a very full time. There's also this interesting momentum as we kind of rush towards summer. Summer, the time of, all of that nature in its fullest glory, absolutely. But the time as well where we get to be outdoors, where we, take breaks from our routine by taking vacation, by booking holidays, by booking trips, by getting away. And so the spring, this transition point between us and the season that maybe we're all waiting for, can feel like one of pushing and driving and getting as much as you can done so that by the time you get there, you can enjoy, you can kick back, you can relax, enjoy, be in those heady dog days of summer. So this is the momentum, the energy that you may be feeling, and certainly I think is mirrored in our culture, in our activities, in the cycles of our work, unless you're a farmer. And it's, that energy is very, very real. But here's the thing. All of the energy, the outward energy that we're seeing in nature is based on this foundation of the internalizing work that happened in the previous season. So if you look at a tree, and today I can see those buds on the tree that I spoke of last week are just that little bit bigger. Right? And those things are starting to emerge. And all of that is because during those internalizing months of winter, where the tree wasn't as showy, there didn't look to be a lot going on outwardly, and there's not. There's a reason for that. In the winter, the tree has taken all of the food, all of the nourishment, all of the sunlight, all of the growth that it created in the earlier seasons, and comes within. And during those months, it preserves and protects and restores its reserves in the structure of the roots, in its foundation, in the trunk, strong branches. That is the work of the winter. And if we are like seasons, if we are like nature, then that's also happened within you. So another interesting observation that I have this time of year is kind of been looking at the tulips, which are everywhere, absolutely everywhere, and they're glorious. And I love to have a vase of tulips in my house this time of year. In fact, my husband brought home a beautiful bunch just the other day. And what's so interesting about tulips, and we wait for them every year, right? We're looking for them in the gardens. We're watching for all of those bulbs that we planted in the fall to poke their little heads up and to emerge into beautiful flowers. They give us that hope, that sight, or that that view into what's to come, the first early signs of what is to become full and glorious in the summer months. And with this fresh bunch of tulips, it's so interesting that tulips continue to grow, don't they? If you've ever had a bunch of tulips, you'll notice that you take the ends off them, they get a little bit taller every day as the buds go from these tight little packages into the opening, the beautiful kind of flowering, the unfolding of all of that splendor. And as the flower unfolds, the tulip continues to grow. In fact, I would say it grows another 3 or 4 inches, even after it's been cut off from its source, even after. That's that momentum, that energy. And perhaps that's why we're attracted to them. We feel that too, that momentum, that pushing, that upward expansion, the waiting for all of that to unfold. What happens to the tulip in the vase? It lasts for a week. I would say a week. If you take good care of them, you turn them up, you change the water, you get a good week out of them. But the tulip in the ground, how long does it last? Once that bud emerges, it takes its time. It unfolds, it grows, it expands, it opens up to the sun, it curls back up and closes in the evening. And how long did that last? I think it's longer than a week. And then it withdraws back into itself. The energy goes back into the ground. It's a very beautiful expression of the turn of the seasons for us. But you see that tulip that we cut off and we put in a vase, while it continues to grow and expand, its life, its vitality has been severed. So it draws from the water, the one source it can still have, and it continues to grow, but its expansion can't be sustained. It can't continue because its foundation, its roots are no longer there. And I think that happens to us as well. If I take this analogy and kind of turn it to what I see in us as humans and this excitement of spring, right? We get very excited. As I was describing, we fill our calendars, we start planning, we start building, we start engaging back in activity. We yearn to get outside. We take advantage of those extra daylight hours. We push so we can get that summer break fitting everything in. But unless we have a connection to source, unless we have a way to come back to our foundation, to be anchored, supported by our roots, our strong core, our strength, as a source of that expansion and that vitality, then, like the tulip, it can be short-lived. And so what happens is overwork, burnout, stressed out, pushing harder, and so spring, if you're connected to that feeling of energy, can feel very expansive. It can feel very draining at the same time. Because we can be disconnected from that source, disconnected from our foundation, and as a result, we can't tap into the reserves that we had created or built or cultivated during the long winter. And so, what do? Well, it's actually quite simple. It's not complicated. And it's not by doing a major detoxification program, or it's not by, getting the gym or joining a running group. It's not by pushing harder. It's not by getting away from it all even. It's through simple ways, simple things that you can do in a moment, in a breath, that bring you back to your core, your baseline of calm. Things like this midday meditation. The foundation of it is what I described at the very beginning. That little practice of tuning within, breaking the momentum or breaking the cycle of all that you're taking in and the outward expression of energy brings you back to that foundation, brings you back to your roots, allows you to reconnect with your inner strength. Taking a moment to take a few breaths. Whenever we pause, whenever we come back to those points of transition, if these calm practices that are simple, that are slow, perhaps even, but replicate how the movements of nature happen. Spring doesn't spring forward. Spring happens in stages. Spring happens on the foundation of the season before, not because it's finally over. And so, as we linger here in today's midday meditation, I invite you to come back to that place where we started, settling into your comfortable seat, renewing your connection, the feeling of your basis of support, the structure, that which is supporting you, your body, your breath. That is the most beautiful place to start. And so linger here as long as you have space for today. And it doesn't have to be hours. It can be, but even a moment or two longer. Spend a minute here, spend 2 minutes here. And the more often you come back to a simple practice, the more you are connected with your source of strength and vitality. The more often you are restoring calm as your baseline. And then the life becomes that of less stress and more joy. Well, thank you for being here. And I'll see you next time. Namaste.